The laptop is right here, the keyboard.
No, but you gotta, I got this.
So like Kathy said, I'm going to go over an overview of the accessibility toolkit that we've created for everyone. So if you scan your camera over this QR code or use the link, it should take you to the toolkit. This handout, which there's a screenshot right there, and these resources are designed to support your journey towards increasing your accessibility confidence. So we have some employer toolkits, and I won't go through all of these to save time, but I'm going to focus on the second one. It's from the Canadian Council of Rehabilitation and Work. So it's a disability confidence toolkit, and it goes over some things such as accommodations, the built environment, career development, corporate strategy, communication, onboarding, performance management, recruitment, and workplace culture. So it has a lot of resources. And I'll just mention that if you go to the recruitment section, it has things such as creating accessible job advertisements using the importance of inclusive language. So on the next slide, you're going to see some common examples that employers can sometimes do to inadvertently create barriers for people with disabilities within job advertisements. So a lot of times, InclusionNL or people who work with people with disabilities and employers who want to hire people with disabilities, the employers will say, oh, people with disabilities don't apply for our jobs. But it's not that they don't want to apply for the...
Slow down, Mandy.
All right, sorry. It's not that they don't want to apply to the jobs, it's that some of the job advertisements inadvertently exclude them. So, for example, instead of saying 10 years experience in medical administration in a medical specialist office, you can say instead, experience working as a medical administrator, including managing patient appointments and requests and communication with healthcare partners. Instead of saying a valid driver's license, which really irks me as a person with a disability, you could say the ability to travel and provide own transportation and work. So often you'll see it says valid driver's license, but it doesn't really matter how you get to and from work, as long as you get there.
1 second, Mandy. We just want to make sure that the ASL interpreter is seen on the video screen for those in the virtual platform, and right now the closed captioning is covering them. No? It's not there. Oh. Okay. No, we're talking about the ASL interpreter. She's too far away. Okay, so people online aren't able to see the video, the ASL, because she's too far away. Give him a moment. He said give him a moment. Thank you, technical person down the back. Yeah. Did we get that issue fixed, Sheila? We're working on it? While we're waiting, I would like to point out that we do have CCRW people here, and Carrie is sitting right at the table. If anybody has any questions about the tool or the work that CCRW does, they're just a huge partner of ours. So please feel free. Carrie's brand new though, so she'll take any question.
But I will take any questions. Not to put any pressure.
I'm glad you're here, Carrie. I don't know what's happening.
So he's trying to put one on Mandy and then one on the ASL.
Okay.
So he's got one on Mandy now.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he's got, I was like, who's that?
And there's the interpreter. Okay. Look at that. That's great. Okay. Proceed, Mandy. Thank you.
Do I need to start over? No.
Carry on where you picked up.
Perfect. So you might say 3 years experience as an insurance auditor, but maybe a more inclusive and flexible job duty could be experience in assurance, auditing, involving a variety of industries, including several complex audits, because you can get experience for many different avenues: volunteer experience, education, personal interest, things like that. And then finally, an example would be, instead of saying a bachelor's degree in economics, you could say experience in economics preferred. Relevant areas such as business, accounting, and work experience are acceptable. So now we're going to move on to digital accessibility. And again, I will not go through all of these. I'll just go through one, and you can look into the rest on your own time. So we're going to look into web accessibility in mind, the contrast checker. So this is a great tool where you can look at the contrast and color use related to your tools to make sure they're accessible. And it comes through the web. It makes sure that your content meets the guidelines for the web content accessibility guidelines. So here's an example. The five boxing wizards jumps quickly, and it has 2 different color contests. So on the next slide, I won't describe this because it's 3 p.m. on a Friday. My brain doesn't have the ability to do that. But when you use this yourself, you can just put your own information into the contrast checker, and it'll tell you if it passed or failed the WCAG standards. So for example, if you look at this side, which might be the, hopefully Molly got the right side, on the right, you have the same font color of a white purple, but this time it's on a white background. So that tells you that it didn't pass the guidelines. Whereas the one on the left is a purple font on a black background, did pass the WCAG guidelines. WCAG. I'm not very good at acronyms or left and right. I think this is my favorite section, event accessibility. Did a lot of that in my time with InclusionNL. So again, I will not go through all of these resources, but I'm going to focus on the accessible campus, accessible events, and conference planning resources. So as we learned today, it's important to make sure that your events are accessible, and this website has a few different resources, such as a checklist for planning accessible events, around facilitating accessible meetings, selecting accessible venues, tips for speakers and presenters, and such. So I'm going to look at the last one, a checklist for planning accessible events. So we're going to do an activity to keep you engaged till we let you go. So we're going to think about today and the event we planned and see how many of these we provided. And you can tell us how we did. So, did we give participants an opportunity to indicate any dietary needs ahead of time? For example, when registering for the event. So when you registered, were you asked if you had any dietary restrictions? Yes. Perfect. Where beverages are being served, are bendable straws and lightweight cups available within easy reach of people using wheelchairs or scooters? So we could do better with that. And we will add it to the list. Perfect. On the table. So we did do it. Are sugar-free beverages, juices, and water available for people with dietary concerns such as diabetes? Perfect. So we're set. If food is provided buffet style, will someone be on hand to help serve people who have visual and physical disabilities or need assistance? If pastries and cookies are on the menu, did we have fresh fruits and vegetables available for people with dietary concerns? I opted for a cookie, but and we even had gluten or lactose-free cookies. But I did see pears and bananas for people who have a better willpower than me. Did we have access to the outdoors to allow people to walk their service dogs during meals and health breaks, or to get out and for a break? Perfect. And we had a sensory-friendly room downstairs and STEM toys available. I hope everybody's enjoying. So these are just some other resources because we couldn't fit it all in our presentation because we'd be here forever and ever. I think Molly and I went down a rabbit hole trying to pick the best ones. So the Accessible Standards Canada, best practices for accessibility when working from home, because we know since the pandemic, a lot of people are working from home. There's a gender decoder tool, so it helps to find subtle biases in job ads related to gender. So you can, for example, take your job ad, put it in, and it'll tell you if you're advertising to candidates who are masculine or feminine. So a lot of times we have education programs or professional programs that are more gendered and not intentionally, just because that's how we rate the job ads. For example, you might know nursing positions are more seen as being a feminine job, whereas engineering is more masculine. So this tool can help you make sure your job ads do not create those societal biases, and we can create more equality. The Government of Canada has an employment equity tool that is very big and very thorough, so you'll have fun with that. I made sure Kathy said we didn't have to describe all of it, or it wouldn't be up here. There's a Pride at Work. Pride at Work has reports, guides, and toolkits related to the LGBTQ queer community related to work. So if you're looking through an intersectional lens, I'm sure that'll be very helpful. And then finally, we have our Women's Economic Council 50-30 Challenge, What Works Toolkit. So they're doing some great work around getting more underrepresented groups in leadership roles, such as women and women with disabilities and racialized women with disabilities. And I know that was quick, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Or if you need more information after, contact Empower. Her number's all over Google.
And that's the QR code again, just in case.
And that's the QR code again, in case you need it. If you ever need a QR code, call Molly.
That's not me, that's Google.
Does anybody have any questions about any of the resources? I know that Mandy did an overview of them, but if you do have any questions, you might not necessarily have them right now, but please don't hesitate to reach out after today if you need, questions answered, or you wanted to check in around something around what we've talked about already today and you didn't get a chance to speak to the person. We have a question down the back.
Hello? Yeah. No, I'm just asking only because nobody else is asking. So I just want to make you guys feel important. Mandy, great job. That was funny and quirky and very informative. One of the slides that you talked about, that was very interesting. Barriers for the job that people find. Yeah, there you go. Language that may create barriers to employment. Another one I felt like, these are very wonderful one, good ones. I took a picture. I always struggle with excellent English communication. I would not apply for that job.
Right.
That's my barrier. But you can hear my English, not that bad, maybe not. I can talk like an Indian accent too if you want me to. I may have an accent, but I can talk very well, Anyway, so what would you rather give me a suggestion instead? Like, what should employers use in their, job? Anybody, I don't know, any other vocabulary to help me with?
Are you looking at me, Mandy?
Excellent English communication, or unless it's for English professor, I understand.
Right. I have a hand up down the back. Laura Bell, I think, got a response.
I don't know.
I mean, I'd be happy to answer it, but certainly interested in other people's insights too.
Just to clarify, you're wondering what language might be more accessible in terms of for English proficiency. So I would say general comfort and ability to converse in English. So there's general conversational English is very different than academic English. If you don't need academic writing in that language, and you say comfort conversing in English, and that usually makes people like, I can speak, so I'm generally comfortable, and that doesn't rank on any hierarchy of skill. So yeah.
Excellent.
Absolutely, yeah, proficient, yeah. I think even proficient sometimes makes people like gauge on what they consider a proficiency level. So I think comfort is based on the individual's, what they feel they can do. So proficiency seems very like academic and judgmental and graded, versus comfort works on, oh, I think I can do this, and not, can you do this kind of energy.
Right. Excellent. That's a great answer, Laura Bell. Thank you.
Language still matters.
Yeah. Language as in like general, language still matters. Yeah.
But my mom said I'm loud and lousy. I thought I didn't need this. Language do matters. I love that statement. Because by looking for an excellent English speaker in me, and if you're not, and I'm not interested in applying, I'm just giving a hypothetical example. I speak 6 languages fluently. So, but English, hey bye, I can't. And on top of that, you're giving me a responsibility to learn Newfoundland's English. It's been 20 years. I'm still stuck with what he at and how you getting on. And then the other day, my best friend's grandfather said, you're some hard cookie. Who knit you? Who knit you? So I had culture shock. So there you go. Then you know what? Then you are missing out those 6 languages. A person can have as an asset for a job. I don't know, whatever we can think of. Then you're just focusing on that part, which can be a little barrier for me in this case, and we're missing out. Basically, anybody here, employers, or if you're not hiring me, you are missing out a huge, your loss. I'm sorry to say that.
Awesome. Thank you. Lisa.
Yes, hi. I just want to add to that and say, when you made the comment that you wouldn't apply for that job because of that one, statement, that's like a lot of women will do that, right? They won't apply for a job because of one thing that maybe they don't have, or 2 things. But I assure you, if it was a man looking at that job description, if he didn't have half of the qualifications, he would still apply. So I would encourage you to apply for any job, even if you didn't have half of the qualifications, because we don't want to miss out.
Okay, Laura Bell is next, and then the woman down over on the other side.
Mine's not a question, more a comment to Lisa. I was attending a Tequity conference, and the saying when it came to that is, what would Chad do? Right. So if you know a Chad, and Chad being the acronym for stereotypical, average, middle-aged, mediocre white man, if he would do it, you have no reason you should not do it.
That's right. Okay, next. Thank you.
So first, I guess a comment about microphones. I think we need to remember that microphones are about accessibility. They're not about volume. So saying I talk loud or I'll use my classroom voice or whatever is dismissing someone's accessibility needs. But I wanted to give a little testimonial about these phrases and using alternative language. When we've done that for job ads, it's really improved the ad. It forces us to think about what we actually want this person to do. And so it helps us find a better person for that job. They come in with a better idea of what they're supposed to do, which means that they can actually achieve it. So doing this kind of rewording makes for a much, much better search, a better ad, a better search, and a better recruitment.
Right, thank you. Absolutely. Anybody else? Elizabeth from New Brunswick.
Hi, I just have a question. I know I've seen in job advertisements before, language surrounding like weight requirements, must be able to lift
Yep.
X amount of pounds. And I'm just wondering, well, it's important obviously to keep safety in mind. Like, should someone apply for that job, like, should you, in an interview situation, for example, should the applicant ask for more detail in terms of what the job requirements are? Or like if someone was to come in, say, with a walker or a visible aid, mobility aid, is there a risk that the applicant would automatically be disqualified? So I'm just wondering if there's any advice around that, because the other side is like, pressure to disclose and so on and so forth. So I'm interested to hear anyone's insight or anything.
My experience around it is that I know that some people have gone for interviews, and when there's been a lift weight capacity, they have talked about negotiating with hydraulic lifts, or if there's a way that you can use something to raise that box up until a level of perhaps a trolley that you wheel or something. So it would be about you introducing assistive technology to the employer specifically around that. On the other side of that coin, I also know of other people who've applied and who haven't gotten the job because they haven't been able to provide that weight capacity. It's about if you have to lift products or books or any of those things.
I'll just add, it's related to my social work experience. Sometimes that weight capacity is not really necessary. It's not bona fide to the job, but maybe they didn't think of it because it's so common that you might, you can just assume you can lift 20 pounds, but it's never needed in the job. I remember reading a social work job to the health authority, and it said, must be able to lift 20 pounds. And I thought to myself, I've never seen a social worker lift 20 pounds. Mostly just a pen to paper. So it's no harm to, when you get, no offense to social workers, might be no harm to ask when you get to the interview, is there a specific reason why you have this in your job ad? And you might have won them over enough that they'll think about it and be like, oh, actually, we never thought that that's not necessary. We could change the job.
Before you do your next thing, Amanda, I just wanted to remind everybody that Tara will be here till we close, and she has some books over on her thing. If anybody's interested in purchasing one, she'd be happy to get you to part with your money. So please don't leave without having a look. And she's signing them, of course. So somebody, Amanda, did you have a person over? Okay.
No.
Paul Walsh is next.
Thank you. Just picking up on the question from our friend from New Brunswick there. I remember years ago, I was at a presentation a gentleman gave here. His name was Randy Lewis from Walgreens, United States. And he talked about they were hiring an individual, and he's a leader in the U.S. Hiring persons with disabilities. And had an individual who applied for a job for a forklift operator and could do all aspects of the job. But he was deaf. And one of the safety requirements was that before he left every morning, he had to press the horn and be able to hear it to make sure the horn worked. So they said, well, he couldn't have the job. So they were coming up with all kinds of ideas about hooking up devices so that a light would go on and all this kind of stuff. And in Mr. Lewis's words, he goes, no, we're too cheap for that. Let's figure out something else. The solution, he would drive the forklift up behind someone who didn't know it was there and hit the horn. If they were frightened, he knew it was okay.
Funny. Anybody have any other questions? All right, we are so close to finishing up. Thank you, Mandy. Really appreciate you sharing those resources. If anybody had problems getting access to them through the QR code, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll make sure